Greetings and welcome. I'm the host and moderator for today, Dawn Charleston Green, the creator of Dawn of a New Day 365 live blog. And I welcome you to our third conversation. Those of you who have joined us or watched previously recall that we have had conversations between women, both Black and white, about the state of our nation regarding the global pandemic, as well as the pandemic of racism. If you missed it, it was a very insightful and thought-provoking conversation that included a medical doctor, educator, assistant DA, child advocate, recent college graduate, a mental health professional, military veteran, a pastor, community activist, and yours truly. That was well worth the 2 hours that we spent having the conversation. Then in our second conversation, we addressed Men's Health and PTSD Awareness Month, a conversation that we call Not All Scars Can Be Seen, a conversation about men's mental health and its effects on the family. Two brave and amazing women shared their personal stories about losing their husbands to suicide as it related to PTSD and improperly treated mental health. We also had my husband and another young married couple talk about living with and acknowledging the importance of identifying and dealing with mental health head on. This was a very candid conversation. If you or someone you know may be interested in watching those conversations, you can find them on YouTube at Dawn of a New Day 365, simply titled The Conversation. Today's conversation, I submit to you, is back to school in a pandemic. Is it working? Is it working? And as always, we have a great panel of guests with us today that include professionals in the field of education, as well as parents and students living the experience, whether good or just, let's say, challenging. Because we're not exactly live to you, I don't have any ground rules to put out. However, if you're watching later and you do have some questions, please put them in the comments and just put a Q in front of a capital Q in front of your question so that myself or one of our panel persons can reach out to you and provide you with that information or those resources. So I thank you. So I thank you for joining the conversation. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. First, I want to introduce our panel to you. First, I'm going to start with Ms. Latoya Jackson Barnett. Mrs. Barnett is an elementary school assistant principal in the state of Georgia with 22 years of experience in elementary and middle school education. She is currently providing oversight for both virtual and in-person learning. She is married with 3 adult children, 2 in college, 1 heading next year, and has her first grandbaby on the way. So we're excited for her. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Barnett. Anasia is so excited. Later we'll have joining us, and Anasia help me see when she comes on. We'll have also Miss Wilhelmina Purvis Bagsby. Miss Bagsby is a high school guidance counselor as well as a parent of a high school sophomore student in the state of Texas. Miss Bagsby is currently working in person, but her daughter is receiving virtual instruction. Miss Bagsby has years of experience and she is married to her husband of 20 years. And in addition to their high school sophomore, they have a college junior who is doing a hybrid schedule of in-person and virtual. Then next we have Dr. Brittany Bush joining us today. Dr. Bush is currently a middle school teacher in the state of Georgia. She has 6 years of experience in K-5, as well as collegiate level instruction experience. This is her first year to teach middle school, and she is serving as a reading intervention specialist. Dr. Bush is currently teaching in person at her middle school, but is not providing college instruction at this time. However, she did so virtually last semester. Dr. Bush has previously received the honor of Teacher of the Year, was most recently awarded the Shiro Award in Education, and has also published a book entitled A Fighting Chance on the academic and domestic support that foster children are receiving and the effects it has on their education. So Miss Brittany, Dr. B, she also has a 2-year-old daughter. And so we welcome and thank you for joining us today. Then we have Jamal Davis. Jamal Davis is a first-year college student from South Carolina, but attending college in Georgia. He says that he is attending in-person blended schedule. Jamal is a journalism major, and his hobbies include singing, acting, and writing. Thank you, Jamal. And then we have with us Dr. and Mrs. DJ and Lindsay Dycus. Dr. DJ Dycus is a college professor of English and Humanities in the state of Georgia with 23 years of experience. He is currently teaching virtually as he and his family were exposed just recently to COVID-19. Previously, of the 2 days he had taught this semester, he taught one in person and then one virtually. When I asked Dr. DJ about his interesting fact, he shared that he taught himself how to juggle by reading a book when he was in the 8th grade. So thank you, Dr. DJ Dycus, for joining us. And aside from him liking to juggle or having that as his skill, he's also married to Lindsay. And they have 2 girls, 3rd and 6th grade. Their 6th grader is an in-person private school, and their 3rd grader is virtual in public school. As previously mentioned with DJ, their family is currently quarantined due to exposure to COVID-19. Thankfully, they are all healthy and doing well and just waiting their test results. So thank you both, Dr. DJ and Lindsay, for joining us today. Then I have with me my sidekick today, come a little closer, Asst Green. Asst is a 5th grade elementary student and my daughter, and she is so excited to have the opportunity to be a part of the conversation. Y'all, she's been trying to be a part of the conversation for a long time. And so yesterday when I told her that she was going to be a part of the conversation, she wanted to make sure she was her best self. So please welcome Asst. She is currently learning from home. And she actually prefers it. Now that's her opinion, but she actually prefers it. But her hobbies are singing and dancing, riding her bike and scooter, and spending time talking to her best friend, as well as getting attention from her daddy and her big brother. So please welcome Asst. Thank you for being here, Asst. All right, next we have Miss Ashley Manker. Miss Manker is a 1st grade elementary school teacher in the state of Georgia. This is her 2nd year teaching, and she is providing instruction in person. Her hobbies include spending time with friends and family, dancing, and writing. So thank you so much, Miss Manker, for being with us today. Next, we have Miss Treska Haley Mitchell. She's an instructional coordinator at an elementary school in Louisiana. She's currently on leave, however. She holds a master's degree in educational leadership. She has 2 sons, ages 18 and 15. Ms. Haley is has devoted, 22 years in the field of education. She spent 10 years in the classroom, 5 years as an assistant principal, 4 years as a principal, and the last 3 years as an instructional coordinator. Her 15-year-old is currently studying virtually, and her 18-year-old is a freshman in college on campus, but predominantly virtual learning. So thank you so much, Ms. Treska Haley Mitchell, for always standing in the gap for me. Thank you. Then up next we have Miss Felicia Jones. I have her down as Miss Morris. This is my first cousin. She is a high school math teacher in the state of Texas. She has 13 years of experience. She is currently teaching virtually. She's a single mother of 4 children, ages 15, 11, 8, and 6. Currently, they are attending school in person. Is that correct? Virtually, but 4 different schools. Right. Okay. All right. So currently the children are, and I'm interested to learn what that is like. Teaching at home virtually and then having 4 virtual learners at home with you, but we'll learn more about that later. Okay. Then we have Dezmond Spivey. Mr. Spivey is a middle school science teacher in Louisiana, as well as a middle school and high school football and track coach. He has 7 years of experience. He is currently teaching in person as well as participating in football practices. In addition to teaching and coaching, Coach Spivey is an active father with 3 children, 10, 5, and 1. Both his 10 and 15-year-old are virtual learners currently. Coach Spivey can also be found refereeing baseball tournaments and snapping photos with his photography business. So thank you, Coach Spivey.
You gotta change that. I don't have a 15-year-old. The 10-year-old.
That's a 10 and a 5-year-old. Excuse me, I'm trying to do too much. Okay, thank you. You quickly corrected me. Okay. All right. Then we have Allyah Williams. Allyah is a senior in high school. She is currently attending in person. She works and she's involved in some other activities. She enjoys music, especially singing. Allyah's plans after high school are to attend an HBCU. So we are so glad, Allyah, that you joined us today. Thank you so much. And I think I covered everybody. Okay. All right. So, and I don't let me put you off guard because it's just us now, so it's not the live. But Miss Manker, and I know you're just like, what? I want to actually start with you. And I'm starting with you because, and not to put you on the spot, but I want you to just kind of talk to us about how last year, you being a first-year teacher, because in your bio, you said this is on your second year teaching. So that means in your first year, you experienced the pandemic. The first year teaching is already just like a year of just like, have I figured out what I'm doing? And then the pandemic happened. So if you unmute yourself and just kind of, would you share with us just kind of how that was for you as a first-year teacher, experiencing a pandemic in your second semester?
Yeah, so hey everybody. Like she said, this is my second year teaching, but my first year teaching was different. I never ever expected something like this to happen. So it was like the middle of March, March 2020 is when we had to switch from in person to home. That was a big adjustment that we had to do. The students, they stopped going to school and they learn from home. So then I had to learn some things online as well. So it's not just the students learning, but I had to learn too. And not just me, but the parents. So I'm messaging the parents saying, please bear with me. We didn't know this was going to happen. I'm learning just like you. And literally I had to take it one day at a time, learning the new online, how to get homework to them, how to message the parents. All of that was new. So that was a big adjustment. And don't get me wrong, it was pressure. I'm not going to lie. It was a lot of pressure. It was a little bit of stress too, but I can say the team that I work with last year was amazing. We had to work together. There was no way we couldn't do it by ourselves. We had to split lesson plans. You teach this, you teach this. And send it out to our students. We had to also be creative. So we had to send out videos for them to watch. We had to upload worksheets for them to do. And some of the students, they did really well. We were actually surprised, but the students last year did really well with being at home. So it was an adjustment. It's a first year that I truly will never forget, honestly.
I know. And so did you feel like you, well, let me just ask, so what type of support you received? You were talking about just your team coming together. That was the biggest support, and just trying to step in for each other?
Oh yeah, my teammates were a big support. I'm telling you, it's important who you work with. My teammates were the biggest support because we helped each other, and we were literally a team. We split up lesson plans. We had to do, what we had to do. So like I would take science, someone else would take math, and we would, go back and forth with that. Sometimes we had to record as teaching, and so we would take turns with that. The instructional specialist at my school was a big help as well. They would help us with different online websites for the kids to go to, just in their leisure time as well.
Okay, good deal. All right, and so I'm using a script, y'all, so y'all know that. But next I want to go to Miss Barnett, an assistant principal. So from your perspective, or should I say, what has been your experience from last year to this year? And what are some things that you as an administrator would have considered supporting a teacher like Ms. Manker?
Good morning, everyone. I truly, when she said it was, you know, what happened in March last year, we had, of course, no control over it. But I feel like the change has been, we went into it blindly in March, not prepared, not knowing what to do. Whereas this year, having to start the year virtually and in person, we were better prepared. We put things in place and programs and things for the teachers to use. Everybody is being consistent with the platforms that they're using. So it has been a much better transition this time versus in March. We didn't know how children would be able to participate in March. Some had technology at home, some did not. Some had the basic internet package. So they would say, yes, we have Wi-Fi, but it wasn't strong enough to, handle the capabilities of what they needed to perform classroom expectations. So it was a big transition. This year has been much smoother. The amount of children that we have at home, of course, is less, but it's trying to handle the children in the building as well as the children at home. So I am administrator in person and administrator for the Learn from Home children. So you're handling dual roles as well.
Now, have you found that difficult, having to manage those dual roles? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The teachers still come to you, especially with the Learn from Home this year. I think the rigor changed, and it is more difficult than what they had encountered in the spring. Right. So a lot of the parents weren't ready for the face-to-face learning that we presented with them this fall, because a lot of that didn't take place in the spring. So it has been more communicating with the parents, explaining the process, what the expectations daily are for your child. So it's a lot of phone calls, a lot of parent communication. But the ones who have adjusted well and gotten the hang of it love it. And the ones that said this is too much, they politely bring them back to school.
Because you almost had this one over here last week. and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it was very different from last year. Last year with her being at home, I basically was the teacher. I had the work, but I did the instruction. So now this year with her virtually being with her own teacher, I don't know. I said last year I was an uncertified 4th grade teacher, and this year I'm an unpaid 5th grade parapro, because I'm having to work with the, if her internet goes down or if something happens, then that's the things that I have to, kind of do. And those are not things that I'm necessarily comfortable with. So for me, that was that stress factor. And then just trying to make sure that she was engaged with Nasia, sometimes being somewhat distracted, and we talk about that, right? So for her, having to get her to pin her teacher, because for her, still having all the screens and being able to see what the other students were doing was still such a distraction for her. So as a parent, trying to stay, in the background so that the teacher can, be at the forefront, but then also still being able to provide that support for her. So it's just kind of hard when you're actually at home, but somebody else is kind of in charge. That has been the difficult, I think, part for me. So, so thank you for sharing it from your perspective, and thank you for working with parents like me who were in the struggle.
But you love it.
That remains to be seen. She said you love it. I said that remains to be seen. But I wanted to also ask you, what would you have done to support a teacher like Miss Manker in her first year of teaching that would have gone through something like this? What are some of the supports that could have been put in place from your perspective?
Just I think a more in-depth knowledge of the technology and the programs and the resources available to her, and coming up with better means of communication. If she was, a first year teacher, you're trying to learn the curriculum, and what your expectations are as a teacher. And now, she had a great team. I know her team, she did have a great team to work with, which was awesome in the fact that they shared plans and were able to work together. So I think that took a load off of her plate, knowing that she didn't have to do all subject areas on her own. So I think that was a great resource for her. But just knowing that, she has her administrator support, and if she has any parent, because a lot of times I had parents tell me as the administrator, I have to go to work. I have to be in my job 8 hours a day. I'm not at home. I can't sit there and make sure Johnny's doing what he's supposed to do. And sometimes as a teacher, that's frustrating because you know what you are supposed to do. And when the students may not be able to do what they need to do on their end, you get worried about how is that going to affect me? You know, how is that going to look on my evaluation if students aren't doing what they need to do? But just assuring the teacher that I have her back or we have their back and we understand that this was unforeseen territory and we're all learning together.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. So that, I mean, that makes sense. It definitely does. Dr. Bush, you shared recently in a post your experience as an educator. And you shared that oftentimes we think about returning to school from the perspective of just kind of school supplies, you know, everybody on the outside. But this year, it was much more than that. And you kind of talked about the PPE or, you know, whether you had it or whether you didn't have it. Can you talk to that point just a little bit and tell us now what your experience has been like for your middle school?
Yes, and let me apologize for my special guest. You know, when you have a toddler, sometimes things are unpredictable. So hopefully she'll stay quiet while I'm trying to speak. But well, let me start by saying last year, I was at an elementary school when all of this happened. I was in the same role as reading interventionist. So I didn't have like a homeroom, so to speak. So my experience was a little bit different because I didn't have a set of children that I had to see on a regular basis. But our school, even though we went virtual as a county, my school couldn't go virtual because 75% of our students either didn't have computer access or they didn't have access to the internet.
Wow.
So we had to create packets for those students to send home. But again, you can't really monitor if they're doing the work. So then it became, well, how are we going to get these packets? How are we going to get these packets from them? But towards the middle, I guess, of the pandemic, they said that we couldn't even get the packets from them because of possible contamination and things of that nature. So we really felt like we lost the end of instruction because we didn't have a way of reaching them or a way of getting that information from them So I was a little concerned as to how it was going to look this year. So when we got the program that we were going to use this year, we started training over the summer, and we really didn't know if they were going to send us back or we were going to be all virtual. Honestly, I was hoping that we would be all virtual for the simple fact that, you know, I have a young daughter. I also, you know, we're in the process of building a home, so I'm staying with my older parents, and I was concerned about their health. So while we may be doing the right things, everybody else is not doing the right thing. And you can't control who comes in and out of your classroom. And I really felt like as a county, they didn't do enough to protect us. When we talked about, you know, well, what PPE or things that they're going to give us, we got a spray bottle of disinfectant and that's it. We didn't get face masks. We didn't get shields. We didn't get, I think only the elementary schools got the dividers, and they just got those last week. And so I was concerned, and a lot of teachers were concerned. You know, they talk about the mental health of children, but I know so many teachers that have been prescribed anxiety medication just to get through this time. And so, you know, there was never an email sent to us about what we felt, how we felt. You know, parents got the email about, well, what were your thoughts on going back to school? How do you feel about that? But teachers never got that. And some teachers got to choose to be online, but me, in the position that I'm in, I didn't get that choice. So, you know, I felt like I was being forced into a position and not really being able to say no, because of course you need your job. But at the same time, how do I do my job and protect my family and not have the stuff that I need to feel safe? So when I did put the post on Facebook, It got quite a response, more of a response than I expected it to get, but just the outpouring of support from the community. I got so many donations for supplies, wipes, things that I need to keep my kids safe. Because I think about the kids in the classroom too. You know, some of them come and they don't have masks, but we only get one mask per child. So if they lose that mask, then what? You know, so I needed extra masks. I needed extra cleaning supplies because that one bottle of solution is going to be gone by the end of the week if I'm supposed to clean in between each class. And that's all we got. So I am very thankful for my support system because, I mean, I was able to donate to other people because I got so much stuff. But I really think we just have to do a better job at not just considering the kids, but also considering the teachers, because we're the ones on the front line. And, you know, if we don't feel safe, then I can't properly do my job if I'm worried or concerned about my health, your health, and all of that. So, yeah, that's pretty much what my post was about.
Okay. Well, I'm glad definitely that you were able to get the support and everything that you need. And I know sometimes when we write posts, we're kind of pouring out our hearts, but I'm glad so oftentimes that there are people who are listening and also people who it resonated with, who felt just like you did at the time. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being, honest about it, because I think you helped more people. Because sometimes when we feel a certain way, sometimes we may think that we're selfish, or am I the only person feeling this way? And just kind of having that other village that says, I hear you and I feel you and I feel the same way, just kind of helps you to continue through it. So I'm definitely glad that you shared that and you were able to get.
And the one thing you said was about the selfishness. I just wanted I didn't want parents to feel like we don't want to teach our kids, because that's not it. It has nothing to do with me not wanting to be in the classroom. Because I would rather be in the classroom teaching online. Teaching online is hard. I would much rather be in the classroom. But at the end of the day, just like, they're thinking about their families, we have families too. So we have to think about them too. And it really had nothing to do with us trying to be selfish.
Right.
We were concerned.
Right. As well, you should have been. I understand. So I'm going to go ahead and segue with Miss Mitchell, who is filling in with me today. Can you kind of speak to this? I know when I did your introduction, I talked about you being on leave right now. Can you share some of that? Does some of the things that Dr. Bush has shared, do those things resonate with you?
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I'm doing double duty. I'm still trying to get us on live for Facebook and paying attention and totally agreeing. So I'm sorry. I've been trying to do 2 or 3 different things. Absolutely. When she was speaking, I was in total agreement because I am on leave right now due to being in a pandemic and also dealing with the anxiety aspect of having to go back into the classroom and keep myself safe, along with keeping my family safe as well. And so I made the choice, a very difficult choice, because I've been in education. This is going into my 22nd year. And it was very difficult to make that decision. But I absolutely had to put myself first as well as my family, and I chose to go on leave. Financially, it's not the best thing, probably emotionally, because that is my career as of right now. But I also knew that the anxiety of worried about becoming ill or my family becoming ill was a great stressor for me. So I had to make that choice, which is why I'm at home. And I am, I am a teacher in my heart, regardless to if you go into admin or coaching or what have you, or curriculum, you are always an educator at heart. You're always that teacher. And so that teacher heart in me is worried about my coworkers. I'm worried about the students. I am. And I just think that as a nation, educators are not okay right now. We are not okay. And I think We are the forgotten heroes. We were the sung heroes in March and April, but now we have been tossed back under the rug, as in, just go do your job. This is, this is what you're getting paid to do. But if you want to be honest, a medical professional signs up to save lives. They take an oath to deal with things of such. That is not what teachers do. That is not what we signed up for. We are to educate the entire child. But none of us on this screen have experienced educating children during a pandemic, a disease which has been proven to take the lives of people and to damage organs for the rest of their lives. That's very difficult. And that's much different from the flu, which media and some public would have you believe that it's the same thing. And it's not. It's just not. So I definitely understood where Dr. Bush was coming from. I also could relate to Ms. Barnett as well from an administrator, because when we left in March, we had no idea what we were going to do. My district chose a totally new platform to come back into. So not only did teachers and administrators have to deal with teaching and leading during a pandemic, but now you have to learn a new platform in order to deliver that instruction. That was a double whammy, y'all. That is when I said, I know mentally I cannot handle this. It's too much. And it's a lot. I'm hearing daily from teachers about how hard it is. Daily.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being, very transparent about, making that choice. I thank you for being our support over here, because sometimes Google Classroom is not parent friendly. And that was a thing I think that I learned last year when we went to the Learn from Home. I realized that I had not actually provided her the support that she needed while she was in school and doing Google Classroom, because I didn't understand it. So I had to have a learning curve for understanding, where is this material? What platform is it on? How many ways do I need to get to it? And so I was ignorant to that. And so, but once I learned, I was a little bit better. We didn't have to do as much with the uploading and turning in of assignments. So Miss Mitchell has definitely helped us. She's my own call person in FaceTime, like, how do I upload this? What do I need to do? And so she is still, of course, supporting so many people, I think, now in education, from even being at home, for those of us who, have to figure it out and are not okay necessarily with doing it. So I appreciate you for that so much. And so I'm going to go over here to Anasia right now. Anasia, elementary school student, a 5th grader. Wow. She's ready to get to that middle school. That's probably the only time I would probably wish a pandemic, but no, you'll go to the middle school. How do you like your experience with being at home versus being at school?
Well, I like my teacher. She's really nice, and I love having support from my mom. She's helping me get some good grades, and I just love it.
You like it?
I like it much better than going to school.
And so what part is that for you? Not going to school? What was it about school that wasn't the best for you?
Well, I would say having the students, like, if you're doing something, like having all of them talking at the same time.
That was a distraction for you?
And having, like, distractions. Yeah.
So it just worked out better for you?
Worked out better here, and I'm more confident here than going to school, because I can't do school.
So this is something that we've learned and we've grown into. And I had always considered homeschool for whatever reason. And so I guess, this happened, and we really just kind of got where we needed to be with it. And so she has seemed to thrive more here with that individual kind of focus and not having so many of the distractions. So we just have to try to find a way for that. But everybody doesn't feel like that. There are some children who are definitely missing that social component of it, especially from, the high school and middle school, those who are involved in a lot of activities. And she was supposed to be in a play at the high school last spring. And of course, those things got canceled. And so we're trying to figure out what that's going to look like. Is the high school still going to be able to put on the play? How do you how do you still put on the play and social distance? I mean, just the cast themselves, not less the audience. So we don't know what that looks like yet, but I know that for some high school students and things like that, not having that social component has been a lot of a detriment to them.